There's no way in hell it's just me thinking that as more and more AAA games release, like Redfall or Jedi Survivor, or even The Last of Us Part 1 on PC, as these games with these massive budgets, extremely skilled, educated, talented, seasoned developers on these projects continue to release these games that have the marketing, they have global recognition by not only the publisher but also the development team, and have people that have dedicated a large portion of time and a lot of personal investment into pursuing a career in video game development. And technically, you can make the argument that, they have achieved their dreams. They have joined a globally renowned development team. In the case of Jedi Survivor, Respawn. In the case of Redfall, you have Arcane Studios. Well, yes, it may not be the same developers, the same personalities, the same creative minds behind Redfall that are known for other Arcane games, but that's kind of beside the point. The point being is you're joining a studio that has a legacy of games, that has a set IP. They are known for a certain level of quality, creativity, presentation that's just naturally tied to that team's name. And the video game environment or industry, whatever you want to call it, is drastically different from what it was so many years ago, before you needed to have your hands on technology that cost a shit ton of money, that you had to have some type of financial backing. You didn't have influencers, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have all these avenues to not only get your name, your project out there to a wider audience by your own hands, or even by, people, like I was saying, influencers, YouTubers, whatever the hell you want to call it, but also the technology. It wasn't something that was just readily available. You had to have probably some type of financial backing. What I'm saying is there is a lot more obstacles back then versus now. Now, you see a lot of indie game developers, teams of 5, 10, sometimes only 1 to 2 man teams, putting out games that are the same quality, at least visually, if not visually, mechanically, or sometimes even both, on the same level as AAA games. Or hell, sometimes they're not even full-blown games that are even entirely out. Sometimes we just have quote-unquote playable demos or examples or teasers. People have completely remodeled older Grand Theft Auto games. They've given us examples of what Grand Theft Auto 6 could potentially look like when the graphics and everything has been ran through Unreal Engine 5. I'm sure all of you've seen that little snippet of a first-person game that this guy was creating. Everyone was saying, no, that's real life footage, until he came out, basically broke down every single thing that he was doing, showcasing that, technology has come so far, tools have become so accessible that we're really starting to hit a market where, really given the time and basic financial backing of sometimes even, having like a GoFundMe behind a particular project, you have a small team of 1 or 2 developers, and if they're given just a couple dollars here and there, they then are able to even push some of their own personal time into this project that they're putting out, and ultimately the end product is something that rivals AAA studios. And in that case too, you're also not dealing with IPs, you're not dealing with any type of lawsuits, big companies, big names, voice actors. Sometimes you may even potentially probably have some type of egos in the booth as far as voiceover work goes, or even sometimes composers themselves. I mean, if you guys have heard anything about the whole Mick Gordon and Doom Eternal soundtrack, that's just a small glimpse of big named major composers kind of getting screwed, or some type of contract or some type of issue going on, so then the iconic soundtrack behind that particular game can either not be continued, or it doesn't have the same quality that we were all expecting for it to have. Then on top of that, you potentially have investors, stockholders, the publishers themselves trying to make all their money back, hit a particular deadline, and the quality isn't up to par or up to everyone's expectations. On the other hand, there was somebody in the room, just give them an idea, or their own basic idea, whether that be an FPS game, an RPG, an open world action adventure game, whatever it is they're trying to achieve. And you can go multiple ways with it. You can go through early access like a lot of games do now, or you can just outright start putting out little playable demos, or even test the game out yourselves and give the developers immediate instant feedback through Patreon. I do know Proteus actually did that for a while. I think you even got early access to the full game before that game released, and a lot of the backers even got their picture put into the game. And another game that's being worked on right now, Celico, I believe it does the same exact thing. Some people can play levels early. The game's not even out, the demo's not even out, but because these people are being supported financially, then you get a little instant taste of things to come. Give them a little bit of an idea to build off of. Maybe something doesn't feel quite right or slightly off, or an idea might work better than what the creator has in mind. Or even going back to, the Superman demo way back when Unreal Engine 5 was first coming out. Bottom line is, we hit a point where technology is becoming so advanced and everything is becoming so accessible. At the end of the day, pretty much anybody can do whatever they want. And the video game industry seems to be be moving these days equally as fast as technology itself. And while it would never, probably most likely never come to be, it would be nice to see major IPs like Star Wars, Call of Duty, Battlefield, maybe not Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption, but games that ultimately, if you put it inside a fan's hands, possibilities are endless. You kind of give them just like a licensing contract, say this, and this can't be done, but you got to do your own origin story. And if it's good enough, kind of similar to the comic books of Marvel and DC, if it's good enough, then we will officially acknowledge it as a canonical story to the overall universe. Something like that I think would be badass. But the way things are moving right now, it's not looking too good for AAA games. Ultimately, at the end of the day, of course, we do have to blame it on ourselves because they are big companies and do learn off of their wallets and how we affect it. And most people go based off of pre-orders and do whatever they want. They see a beautiful trailer, eye candy, they see one or two features or mechanics that's just amazing, and sometimes it becomes a gimmick. And it's not as great or doesn't have as much of a practical application as we originally thought it was. But naturally, competition is a good thing. At the end of the day, the consumer is supposed to win from the competition. However, it doesn't look like competition is all that steep right now. I think in a couple more years where technology is even more advanced, people become much more talented, much more time is able to be invested in their projects. I think in about 10 years or maybe even sooner than that, you're going to see indie developers that are even made of 1 to 5 man team completely rival 100, 200 man teams, because sometimes those projects are so massive, you're dealing with multiple studios across multiple continents, and then it becomes just a time thing. And then of course you got to throw on your marketing, this and that. But eventually I think all that stuff is just going to meld together. And I'm ready for that point. I'm tired of seeing games like, The Last of Us releasing on PC in the shitty state that it's in, Jedi Survivor in a shitty state. Redfall is a game that should not have ever been made. But, I've just been thinking about indie games lately and how obviously Steam gets indie games every single day. Some games completely take off and rival AAA games. Other games sit there and are equally as bad as Redfall, but because they don't have that marketing, they don't have that name brand or the hype, the artificial hype behind it, then it just falls to the wayside like Redfall should have. But anyways, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about technology today and just the video game industry, because it just seems like, at least for me particularly, I've been waiting more and more for indie games rather than full-blown AAA games. And I talked in the past about how indie games are slowly making their way over to console, and over time I'm sure more and more will as well. So that way these teams, these IPs, these passion projects ultimately get the love and respect that they really do deserve. Because, it's not easy to be crafting a video game from the ground up, or sometimes even tweaking big AAA game mistakes. People do it. You gotta love enough love, passion for whatever it is you're working on, you're going to make it work. And I just hope in time that becomes something that's true. Every passion project moving forward, regardless of how big or how small that indie team is. But anyways, I'll shut the hell up now. Let me know what you think. Are you someone like me, kind of just sitting and waiting more for indie games these days and not so much hyped and excited for AAA games? I mean, this year we have a good solid lineup, more or less, as far as Sony exclusives go. But beyond that, man, some of those indie games that aren't even out yet are really hard to beat as far as they look. We got Trepang 2, we have The Finals. I believe the first Descendant is also being made by an indie team. The day before looked amazing as hell too, until the devs started being a little sketchy. But anyways, let me know what you think. Am I just talking out of my ass, or are you kind of agreeing with me here? Let's talk down in the comment section. But like always, guys, my name is Cynic. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, see you all in the next video.